you want to understand the brain, you have to understand why the brain changes under the influence of psychedelics. LSD, I would argue, is one of the most important drugs that's ever been studied.
Science doesn't yet know how LSD works in the brain.
This is LSD.
And LSD is one of the most potent drugs that there is. It's also one of the most interesting, perhaps the most interesting, because of the way it alters consciousness.
What's more important than consciousness? It affects everyone. Consciousness is the centre of everyone's life. What can be more interesting than understanding better how we are the way we are?
Psychedelics have been part of human history. Every culture that's been discovered has used psychedelics. This project is, I think, one of the most significant projects in the history of brain research. It's been banned effectively from research for 50 years. That's outrageous. That's the worst censorship of science there's ever been. And I want to rectify that. Now we're going to do the first ever human imaging study with LSD. We're
in a very privileged position because we know that we're going to find something. We don't quite know what, but we know it's going to be meaningful. So what we do is recruit some volunteers for the study, which usually isn't very hard. They are administered LSD intravenously in the morning. And essentially what we're doing is we're using two different brain imaging modalities to ask different questions, but complementary questions, about how LSD works in the brain.
Brain imaging is almost like a new art form because you can relate what you're experiencing to what's actually happening in there, and that gives a whole new tool to explore and understand how consciousness works better.
One of the nicest feelings is coming home, with the knowledge that they've had profound experiences under LSD and that we've captured what was happening in their brains when they were having those profound experiences. And that gives me a very deep sense of satisfaction and excitement, really, about what we're going to find when we do the analyses.
The study of psychedelics can really address two fundamental questions. The first is how the brain works, and the second is, can we use the alterations in brain function to medical benefit? Can we help people with disorders like obsessive compulsive disorder, like depression, get better? People get locked into a mindset of depressive thinking because they cannot disengage from that mindset. And psychedelics seem to disrupt the parts of the brain which force that thinking and allow people to think differently.
We're working in an area which is set to be the next big thing in psychology and psychiatry, potentially. I really do believe that. And I also do believe in the therapeutic potential of these drugs, that they could be useful for helping people understand themselves, helping them understand of whatever is troubling them.
Working in this field is quite difficult. The drugs are illegal, and that gives us massively increased costs in terms of getting through all the ridiculous regulations which treat LSD as if it is more harmful than heroin. The second point is, because of the political baggage that's been attracted to psychedelics, we cannot get funding from conventional funders. That's why we're asking the public to fund us, because truly we don't have enough funding.
Now, what's amazing is that people's curiosity about these drugs and how they work could be put to such good use as to actually fund the research itself.
We need more funding to complete the study, and we've been enormously grateful for you to help.
One of the reasons I'm passionate about this research is that I'm getting old, and I want to lay the foundation so that the next generation can really reap the benefits of this research in terms of understanding the brain and also developing new interventions for disabling disorders like depression and addiction.
Inside the brain is the next great mystery, even more than space, really. And we're at the foothills of understanding more. There's a great dam and it's waiting to burst forward. We are on the verge of something great.